Okay, it's yet another weekend, and when it's a weekend, we go out to the West Coast to talk to Michael Snyder and find out what's happening with his little culture blast and his movies and stuff like that. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Alex. How are you?
Okay.
Yeah, I went north. I'm in San Francisco, taking a little breather from the L.A. ramble, but it doesn't mean I'm dropping the ball on new movies and such. So let's just get rolling. It's October. What better time to release a horror movie or two? And we've got a couple, and boy, are they horrors. I'm just kidding, or am I? Goosebumps is a horror comedy based on the beloved R.L. Stine family-friendly book series, a variety of different interpretations of classic monster tropes and a lot of original spins and whimsy, and kids love them, and they've sold millions and millions of copies. So, hey, let's see what we can do about monetizing the brand even further. We're going to make a movie that actually has a character called R.L. Stine in it, who's an author. Well, it's a nice idea, but guess what? They decided to hire Jack Black to play the R.L. Stine character, and frankly, this stuff didn't work. He just can't seem to carry a film in my book. Anyway, the movie also stars Amy Ryan and Ken Marino, and as the designated kids, Dylan Minnette and Odeya Rush, kid moves to a small town, and right next door is a really cute girl in a creepy house, and her father seems like some sort of horrible maniac. And in fact, that's the R.L. Stine character. And it turns out that his books can come to life. Oh, Lordy. And it's magic and various horror tropes and scads of CGI monsters. And it's directed by Rob Letterman, no relation to Dave, who came out of the animation field with Monsters vs. Aliens, which was considerably better than anything he's done live action-wise. For instance, he did the update of Jonathan Swift's classic Gulliver's Travels with Jack Black. Terrible, terrible film. So Goosebumps, not that funny, not that scary, kind of slapped together, weird internal lack of logic, and a little distasteful to have this fictionalized version of creator R.L. Stine as the central figure. And the teen boy and girl provide tween audience ID. And I don't think Jack Black has carried a film since the almost foolproof School of Rock. Some people might like this. I did not. Kids could get a kick out of it. Maybe take the kids, and you won't feel all that bad that you wasted your time, but really not crazy about it. Okay, another horror movie and a big disappointment for me was Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak, which is kind of a weird mix of, I guess, classic Gothic horror and Hitchcockian murder and betrayal, and, Jane Eyre style, family lunacy. And it's about a young woman in Buffalo back at the turn of the century who is kind of lured by her crazed romantic inclinations to join a young man and his sister in their Gothic mansion in England. She marries the guy who seduces her away from her father. Her father dies. She's left alone with this guy and his sister in the mansion. And, the actors are pretty cool. You got Mia Wasikowska as the innocent, and you've got the great Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain as the brother and sister, who clearly have some creepy crap going on here. Then you get your gory CGI ghosties with smoky blood wisps coming over them, kind of original looking. A little touch of steampunk here and there. Gorgeous to look at. Overly long by about 15 minutes or more. Not very scary, except for some early moments before it all kind of ossifies into a turgid haunted house knockoff. Speaking of which, The Haunting, the original recipe, so much scarier, with so many fewer in-your-face spirits and a smaller budget. This is an ornate bauble, but art direction and the good actors isn't enough. And weirdly, even with the title, it reminded me of a recent Doctor Who episode, The Crimson Horror, with Diana Rigg and her daughter Rachel Sterling, and that was actually scarier than this. A disappointment. Guillermo del Toro, I expected so much more. Bridge of Spies is a pretty solid historical and a little provocative Cold War adventure with intrigue that's kind of pleasurable to watch, but not truly great or memorable. directed by Steven Spielberg and starring the stalwart Tom Hanks. Maybe their styles and personalities are a little too familiar, but it's about the real-life American lawyer who was supposed to negotiate the release of the U-2 spy plane pilot back in the Cold War days when he was shot over Russia. And it's got its moments, I have to say. And I really kind of enjoyed the guy. What was the guy's name? Gary. Do you remember his name? The U-2 pilot who was shot down?
Yeah, Gary Powers.
Gary Powers. Mm-hmm. So he's in this thing, and I was kind of caught up in it. And they're so good at what they do, even with something like this that is essentially like sleepwalking to them. It's still very, very entertaining. They are reliable, and it is formulaic, but I still thought Bridge of Spies was diverting. Can I give it a wholehearted recommendation? Kinda. Okay, we need a great film to recommend, and I have one. Room. It is a festival sensation and a small movie, an indie film, and it's about a young mother and her 5-year-old son who have stayed basically locked off from the world for the child's entire life until circumstances intervene. And there's a reason why they are living in a very enclosed space, and you can probably guess what it is. And the beauty of this film is what happens when they finally get out. And honestly, a pair of the best performances of the year, particularly Brie Larson, who was the sister in Trainwreck and the struggling but committed female social worker in the underappreciated Short-Term 12. And, she's been in 21 Jump Street and Community and United States of Tara, but here she's doing work with a depth that might not have been imagined from her. Solid and Slider performances. She's the mom. A young kid actor named Jacob Tremblay is the boy. And as her parents, William Macy and Joan Allen, man, this is a powerful, wonderful film. And written by a woman named Emma Donahue, directed by Lenny Abramson, and kudos all around. Room is definitely worth seeing, and it's heartbreaking, and at the same time, totally engaging, and I, again, can't recommend it higher. Okay, another good one, Beasts of No Nation. Idris Elba, Luther, and many, many other great characters, and one of the stars of Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, which I loved. He stars in this disturbing drama based on the experiences of Agu, a child soldier fighting in the civil war of an unnamed African country. There are all these kid soldiers that are recruited, conscripted against their will, and thrown into battle like cannon fodder in these conflicted countries over there. And writer-director Cary Fukunaga has previously done a very fine version of the classic Jane Eyre with, and here we go again, Mia Wasikowska as Jane Eyre, Michael Fassbender as Mr. Rochester. And as different as this is from that film, and that was good, this is even better than this costume period piece that we're talking about before. It's to see this and to see the slaughter and the horror and to see the resilience of the kids and also the hopelessness in a lot of cases and the inevitable tragedy is shattering stuff. So I have to give the big thumbs up to Beasts of No Nation, which should be required viewing on a lot of fronts. People should know what's going on here.
Yeah, but I think you're forgetting something about this.
What's that?
Where they can see it.
Well, where can they see it?
Netflix.
Well, there you go. You can see it in theaters, by the way, in New York and L.A. and
on Netflix. Because Netflix produced the film.
Well, that's, all the better is all I can say. Truth is a pretty interesting conceit for a film. It is a docudrama about the scandal that erupted when the award-winning journalist and producer Mary Mapes and CBS News anchor Dan Rather broke the story that George W. Bush may have been AWOL from the U.S. National Guard for over a year during the Vietnam War. We've heard the story. We know how it ended up disgracing Rather, but this is the story behind the story, and it stars, as Mapes, Kate Blanchett, and shockingly enough, as Dan Rather, a very good Robert Redford, who's kind of captured the mannerisms and some of the vocal inflections of Rather, but doesn't do a slavish impression. Topher Grace, bouncing back after some degree of obscurity of late, plays one of the her assistants, Mapes' assistants. Elizabeth Moss and Dennis Quaid are in this thing. Rather is damn good. when you meet him, and a real charming guy. And what's crazy is Redford captures all of that, and Blanchett is her usual sterling self. In truth, I really enjoy this. Some people may shrug because of the obvious star turns here, but James Vanderbilt, who wrote and directed the movie, gets my thumbs up for truth. And finally, I want to talk about Experimenter. Peter Sarsgaard stars in this docudrama about the social psychologist Stanley Milgram, whose 1961 behavioral experiments tested humans' willingness to obey authority. This is a fascinating story. This guy was real, and these obedience experiments at Yale were meant to find out what people were willing to do, how far they'd go in terms of following orders, regardless of how those orders would impact an innocent fellow human being. You know, that whole Nazi thing of I was just following orders when atrocities were committed. This is pretty cool and disturbing stuff. Supporting work by Winona Ryder as his sweetheart, Anton Yelchin, Jim Gaffigan playing a straight role as one of his assistants, and a few other renowned folks. I mean, the guy got pretty famous, and he appeared on talk shows. And actually, there's a sequence here where Kellen Lutz from Twilight does his best William Shatner impression in a sequence where Milgram sees his experiments fictionalized in The 10th Level, a made-for-TV movie that starred Shatner as a scientist who was essentially Milgram. Again, like Beasts of No Nation, pretty fascinating. Like Bridge of Spies, based on real events, and I thought it was worth seeing. In the case of Bridge of Spies, you probably would want to see it on the big screen. Beasts of No Nation and Experimenter and Room will all be good on TV. They'll all be good on the home entertainment unit, so there's that. See them in theaters, wait for them on your home TV, whatever you like, but those are the good ones. What do you got, buddy? What's going on?
Well, I don't have much of anything, although I will recommend that on Netflix they're running the Glenn Campbell documentary. I can't remember the name of it now. And it is just an incredible documentary about his Alzheimer's and his final tour and the family dealing with it. It's very compelling. It's on Netflix, and you can watch it there.
I agree with you. It was a wonderful, wonderful movie and a heartbreaker. I think it was something like "I'm Still Me."
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommended. And again, if you are correct, and they can just snatch up Beasts of No Nation on Netflix, go for it.
But I am correct. I just was watching it today.
Oh, Mazel Tov. Great. Yeah. Also on Netflix, by the way, if you get a chance to see it, Listen to Me, Marlon is pretty cool. I know that's now available on there. I think they helped finance that. The Marlon Brando found audio documentary. Good stuff out there if you can dig it up and know where to go in terms of streaming stuff. But
yeah, also the new Fargo is pretty good, pretty damn good. If anybody wants to watch it, and that's about it. I haven't seen anything else that just knocked my socks off.
You did experience The Walk, I heard.
Yes. Yeah. And I tell you what, I went to see. We went to see last weekend, and I'm sorry, it's not as good as everybody was like saying it was, and that was The Martian. I felt it fell rather short. I think that the beginning of the film, with the process of trying to stay alive, was well done. Damon's performance was fine and kind of humorous. And then the ending, just the third act, just goes south.
Well, clearly not enough little green men. But
no, that's not the point. The point is that it's like all of a sudden it gets away from that singularity of him to all these people on Earth trying to save him, and then they can't find a way to do it, and then ultimately they find some way. You know what would have been good in this movie? If he had just died at the end.
That's the spirit. You're misanthrope. No, I agree with you. It did. The third act problems.
Because my problem with films like this is, the guy's gonna live. You haven't seen the end of the movie, but he's going to live. And if, in fact, for once you let somebody like this die and say, hey, things aren't that pat in the real world. I mean, I would have loved to have seen something where his ingenuity was keeping him alive, but their lack of it kills him.
Well, if that was the case, you would have had to substitute Matt Damon for Ben Affleck, because people would only really enjoy seeing Ben Affleck die on Mars.
Yeah, well, but you know what I'm saying. I mean,
I do know a third act problem, and it's the sort of thing where you want to have that good old fashioned happy ending, and it's epidemic and has been in Hollywood movies, and it's always shocking and delighting to see a film that ends with something unexpected and sad and shocking.
I mean, The Walk, obviously, he's going to survive because in real life the guy survived, but you still are holding your breath when you watch this thing, and it's all special effects, but
still, that's the best use of 3D I've seen, and I don't even know how.
Well, the film wouldn't have been good without the 3D. I think the 3D is important because it gives you that sense of height. And
sure.
and it was shot in actual 3D. It wasn't one of those Jimmy rigged,
You mean like the Jason Momoa Conan the Barbarian, where they slap 3D on it?
Well, most of these films, they slap the 3D on it, and give me a break. If you're going to shoot it in 3D, then use the 3D. I'm very sorry to hear about the Guillermo del Toro picture because I'm a big fan, and I was
you might like it. Someone likened it to Rebecca, the Hitchcock film, and I thought that was pretty apt. And again, there's that whole Jane Eyre vibe, but I wanted horror, I wanted scares, and I didn't get that.
Well, you know what he creates, though, are great monsters. His monsters are unique.
Well, yeah, the corpses with wisps of red blood, kind of gaseous around them, that was a beautiful effect.
Yeah. But anyway, But otherwise, I haven't. There's nothing that I can. Of course, I recommend Fargo highly. Okay, and
season 2 of The Affair is out. I know some people love the first one.
I don't watch it. I watched one episode and fell asleep.
No.
I'm tired of Brits getting all the work.
I know, stealing jobs from hardworking American actors.
Exactly.
And playing Americans. Thank you.
And it's not just one now. It's the two leads in this show that are both British.
Dominic West and Ruth Wilson. It's so funny because there are a lot of hardworking actors. I see them in Los Angeles. They're waiting tables. Meanwhile, here comes Dominic West.
Exactly. And I'm getting a little tired of that. I'm sure there are American actors who could have played the part.
Yeah, Jack Black would have been great.
Jack Black. Yeah. Who's that fat actress? What's her name?
Oh, yeah. Jack Black and Melissa McCarthy in The Affair. The Calorie Affair.
Right. Anyway. I guess that's I should roll the theme here. Tell them where they can find you, okay?
Follow me on Twitter at Culture Blaster, one word. And you can visit Michael Snyder's Culture Blast, the page on Facebook, where you can hear Alex and I whenever you feel like it with a click of your mouse. And, remember, we're on Roku.
Yeah, as well. And we may start placing you in some other places, like on our webpage and stuff, but we haven't done that yet. Anyway, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
You bet, buddy.
I invite everybody to keep listening to GabNet. There's more coming up.